We're not limited to one structure being nested inside another. We could have a structure nested inside a structure, which is nested inside a structure, which is nested inside another structure, and so forth. Let me show you an example here of a client who wanted to be able to post a sign-up sheet outside her managerial door where employees could sign up for 20-minute conversations. In the application, she wanted to have a start date and an end date, and then choose the days of the week that she would be available, and then the time slots for those days, and how long the increments would be in terms of the meetings in between those time slots. So, for example, it was 15-minute meetings, she could do 4 of those an hour. 20 minutes, she could do 3 an hour. So she wanted an app where I could click the Generate Slots button and have it generate a list of the day and the times that could then be copied to the clipboard and pasted into a Word document, printed, and posted outside of a sheet for people to sign up with. I have some date time picker controls where we can choose the date. So I chose Monday, October 7th and Monday, October 21st, that 2-week period. The days of the week that would be available are Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. You can use the check boxes to change those. Time slots starting at 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. and again using a calendar date time picker, we can modify the times. And then I used a numeric up down for the length of each slot, which goes from 0 to 90 minutes. And so default 20. I'm going to click the Generate Slots button, and you can see between Monday, October 7th and Monday, October 21st, 20-minute intervals between 9 and 11 a.m., we get Monday, October 7th, 9, 9:20, 9:40, 10, 10:20, and 10:40. And then on Wednesday, October 9th, same thing. Thursday, October 10th, Monday, October 14th, Wednesday, October 16th, and Thursday, October 17th, and then again on Monday, October 21st. That can be copied to a clipboard. I'm told it's a copy to the clipboard, and I can then paste that into Microsoft Word or some other document. Let's look at how this was generated, because this project uses a nested conditional inside a loop, and in that nested conditional is another loop. So we have a loop inside a conditional and that conditional inside the loop. Our outer loop is how many days are remaining. We're going through the days between the start date and the end date. We're asking, is it a valid day? Is it, in that case, a Monday, Wednesday, or Thursday? If it is, we're going to print the date. And then we're going to use a loop to print out the different time slots going between the starting time and the ending time with a step of the increment. Let's review the code. For the interface, I have a date time picker called DTP start date, another one called DTP end date. Then 7 checkboxes. These are named CHK Sunday, CHK Monday, and so forth through to CHK Saturday. Another date time picker called DTP start time and DTP end time. A numeric up down called NUD slot time. How many minutes should each slot be? Button named BTN slots, one named BTN clear, and BTN copy that will copy the text of our output text box, which is named TXT slots, and the multi-line property set to true along with a vertical scroll bar. Let's take a look at the code for the generate slots. I'm creating some variables for the start date, the end date, the start time, the end time, taking those values from the 4 different date time pickers. I'm also going to set my date and my time that we'll use in our loops to that start date and end time. I need to figure out how many days there are between the start date and end date. So I have a time span called dates, which is the end date minus the start date. And then days as integer equals dates dot days, so how many days there are in that time span plus 1. So I'm going to make that last day an inclusive day. And then I create a string called valid days. This is going to contain which days can meetings be scheduled on. Is it Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, so forth. So we're going to start with that string being null, and then I use a loop. And I'm going to go through the objects in controls So I'm using a for each loop. And if the name of the object has the first 3 letters, so I'm using substring 0, 3 is CHK. If it's a checkbox, the only checkboxes I have are those 7 days of the week. Then if it has CHK and it's a checkbox, if the object itself is checked, then we're going to add the day after the CHK name to valid days. So remember, my checkboxes were named CHK Sunday, CHK Monday, and so forth. So by taking the substring 3, we would eliminate the CHK and just put Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, along with the space between, in that valid days string. I'm going to use that then in my nested structures to print out the dates and the times. In txtslots.text, I'm going to set the text equal to sign up for a meeting slot below. That'd be our first line. And then going through a loop for I as integer equals 0 to days. So in this case, we're going through 15 days, a 2-week period plus an extra day. If valid days, that was my Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, whatever as far as it was checked, if that contains mydate.dayofweek.toString. So my date is starting out as the start date. If that start date is contained as far as the day of the week that it is in that valid days, then we're going to print that text. That's the next line. So txtslots.text equals, I'm going to do a carriage return line feed and the mydate.toLongString. However, if it's not one of the valid days, then we're not going to do anything in that loop. We're just going to go to the next day. Now, assuming it's a valid date, then my time equals start time. And start time was the value of our DTP start time datetime picker. Then I have a do loop. So I'm going to print out the first slot here. txtslots.text equals, I'm going to do a carriage return line feed with a few spaces, and then whatever the my time is, set to short time string. And then we'll set my time equal to mytime.addMinutes. So we're adding minutes to the value that's in that NUD slot time numeric up down. And we continue that loop until we print it out all the time. So we've gone past the end time. That's my loop until. Loop until my time is greater than or equal to the end time. We're kicked out of that loop. Then we're going to go back through and change my date by adding a day to it. And now we're going through our outer loop again for the next day. That's my nested structure of a loop inside a conditional inside a loop that prints all those days and the times. Now, I also had 2 other buttons. One was to copy the text to the clipboard, and the code for that is clipboard.setText to the text of txt slots. I'm taking that container of the text box and setting the text of the clipboard to that. And then I use a message box to show that had been done. The clear button validates the user wants to clear by having a message box come up and making sure if they want to clear the list, they can confirm it by clicking the yes button. If they click the yes button, then we will clear the text of txt slots. If you just jumped into this video, you can see all the videos from the Programming Practicum playlist by clicking on the image in the lower right. And if you'd like to be alerted to future videos I create, you can click my picture in the top right to subscribe to the channel.